Wait, nobody really knows who they are or where they came from? Why not? Well, our histories are so confusing because of religion, and I mean mythologies. What we have today in every place is not history passed down from ancestors to descendants. We have mythological fairy tales. But despite what your stories say, you did not spring forth from the grasslands, neither did you coalesce from the aether. You came from somewhere to get there. All of you. We all come from the loins of one of Noah's 3 sons, and they got off a boat that landed somewhere right up in there. Even they got here by boat. But wait, isn't the flood just mythology? Well, there's an interesting thing about that. It is the oldest mythological story that is shared by virtually everyone. Well, floods happen all the time locally. Of course they're all gonna have a flood story. No, they all share the flood story from the Bible. The details get a little more telephone game the further that it spreads out from the source, of course. Everything adapts and evolves the further it gets from the source. Do we not know that? We do. It's called microevolution. Happens with language, literature, culture, customs, skin color. Further you get from the source, the more you change. It's well documented. But oddly enough, religion and mythology is how we can actually trace back who we all are and where we all did come from. It leaves us a clue. The mythologies and religions are books of receipts of who we are and where we came from. Archaeology happens to support every bit of this, what I'm about to tell you, except their timelines are whack because time is relative and has this little tricky thing about it. You see, the further you try to look back in time, the older everything is gonna try to look. But this is a distortion, like unto gravitational lensing, because everything that exists is on wave function, waxes and wanes, crescendos and decrescendos, including time. Because time is a byproduct of the mechanics of our universe. It's toroidal, wave function. There is no such thing as a constant anything anywhere. It is all wave function, everywhere. Deep time is an unnecessary illusion. One parable and I'm done with this talk. When you turn on your Nintendo, Mario World does not have to evolve to come into existence because it all exists in the code itself. And the code is one mechanism starting another mechanism, starting another mechanism, It happens real quick. It doesn't take billions of years. It doesn't have to evolve that way. It's all inherent in the code. What code? Our universe is binary language, ones and zeros. Like unto a simulation? Yeah, that's what all our simulations are based on, is our reality. So to say our reality is like unto a simulation is only logical because when we simulate realities, we use this to do it. The fact that we can simulate realities that don't themselves need to take millions and billions of years to evolve into existence proves that neither does ours. As above, so below. From the macro to the micro. It's Russian nesting dolls. I've told you all this. So history is no mystery. It just looks like one. But we have all the receipts and the archaeology. There's a whole lot more archaeology. Wait till Antarctica melts. They're gonna have to explain that 200,000 year freeze. 200,000 years it's been frozen? I don't think so, bro. I think that happened 5,000 years ago, and we're gonna find out. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I digress. How do mythologies and religions help us trace our histories to where we come from? Well, you're in luck. I've made a 20-year study of this. Despite what they tell you about our history, we know that civilization restarted about 5,000 years ago. Restarted from what? Well, there was a global flood, cataclysm. We know there was a worldwide civilization before that cataclysm, and we know that it restarted down there in Sumer. Wait, how do we know there was a civilization before the cataclysm? Well, there's megalithic structures all over the world that share common design and themes. Just like all the skyscrapers of today all began in one place and then copied one another, but changed with the further it got from the source. The skyscrapers are not exactly the same, but they are all based on the same design, and they all appeared right at the same time because of that. Just like the megalithic structures of a worldwide civilization that no longer appears anywhere. Where are their bones even? They washed into the abyss. They are the substrata of the Mariana Trench. And there's trenches everywhere because they all got washed into hell. Fountains of the deep broke open, and then after the flood, the earth opened her mouth and swallowed the water. I'll give you another example of this. The people in the Indus Valley did not start carving statues of their gods until after the Greeks got there and put up statues of their own. And with this new competition in the land, the people who made no statues to their gods began copying the Greeks according to their own mythologies. Because if the Greek gods are going to be represented by images in our place, well then our gods are going to be represented by images in our place too. And that is how that happened. All of the Buddhist carvings are because the Greeks came down there and subjugated them. Skyscrapers and megalithic structures. Competition. The indomitable human spirit. Racing towards what? World domination. Who? The nations. Anyway, are these talks as fun for you as they are for me? Because they're fun for me. I like this stuff a lot. It is my bread and butter, and I don't charge nobody for it. And yet blessings rain down from heaven. Funniest thing. That what Jesus said is true? I mean, anyway, I want to be very clear that it is true. Look, the history of the world is divided into 4 ages. We're in the 4th one. But it started in the first one, that worldwide civilization. From the time of creation, it ended at the flood. The age is over. When Noah and his 3 sons got off the boat, the second age began. Civilization restarted. There were 3 different worldviews in the world in those days. Yeah, there were 4, because Noah had one. But Shem's was just Noah's. He carried it on. Best he could, Japheth carried on Shem's. Not Noah's, Shem's. Once removed. Shem might know the whole story from Noah, but he surely don't know it like Noah does. Shem did not build the ark, Noah did. So Shem's viewpoint is going to differ from Noah's. He's a generation removed. You don't share the same viewpoint as your parents, do you? You're in a new place now, in a new time now, aren't you? We might try to hold to our grandfather's worldviews as best as we can, but we know that they weren't entirely correct, don't we? And so we're gonna have to change some of that, aren't we? And Shem probably had that same attitude towards Noah, didn't he? Because we're talking about a son and his father, aren't we? So immediately, they get off the boat. You got Shem's perspective, you got Japheth's perspective, and you have Ham's perspective. Ham, we know from the Old Testament, wasn't right in his head. So right away, you've got 3 different dudes and their wives, 3 different understandings of the world and what has happened, and what it all means. Ham's children go down and restart civilization, which thing was learned from the fallen angels of the pre-flood world. They did not follow after the God of Noah, they followed after the gods of the antediluvian world. So everything they said about the story was flavored from that perspective. Japheth's people didn't hang around. They were like, nah, we ain't doing that. They left. The first peoples to populate the far-flung places in the Isles. The Aboriginals. Japheth's people shunned the technology. We don't want anything to do with that. We want to live naturally, they said, and did such. Ham's people were after civilization and technology. Japheth's people were living natural. And so from their perspective, nature became the gods. In their retelling of the story, the further that they spread. Because the forces of nature, the angels, fell in the antediluvian world. The angels, the forces of nature themselves, are personified because they're intelligent people from a higher plane of existence. Heaven. The forces of nature are angels that live in heaven, but they're also created, so we don't worship those. Like, that part of the story is true. The forces of nature are divine celestial beings. We know this from science. Anyway, they have metabolisms, therefore they have to have consciousness and perception, because that's what it is. Never mind. Shem's people did a bunch of different stuff. They ruled over the people there in the land of Canaan from cities. Did the whole empire thing too. Some of them were nomadic, shepherds, and everyone sort of established themselves in the second age. But then a funny thing happened. The second age ended in cataclysms galore, Armageddons, wars, empires collided. And it's not like one age just ends and another begins. Another age ends as the new age is born. So there's a little overlap there between the second age and the third age as the third age was born. But a funny thing happened with the mythologies and the religions. You had Japheth's people worshiping nature. You had Ham's people worshiping the old gods. And their ancestors got added to that religion, namely Semiramis and Nimrod, which is where the idea of emperor god Pharaoh comes from. The old gods are no longer here. These people can represent them. They are the old gods born into the world as people now. The story evolved, but right in the beginning of the third age, the tribe of Dan started a new religion where they took all 3 perspectives, all 3 concepts, and wrapped them up into one nice, neat little package to rule them all. One ring to rule them all. Included details from everyone's perspective so that it can be familiar in some way to everybody. And then that beast from the sea conquered and colonized the whole known world with it, setting the stage for the 4th age, where that beast from the sea went and did it all again, conquered and colonized everybody, under a new worldview, which is just the old worldview repackaged, slightly evolved and adapted for modern times. They call it science now. In the third age, it was called mythology. Same thing, all grown up. And it started just outside Al-Aish in 1400 BC. And time keeps on ticking.